All right, let's just jump right into this. What we're looking at here is, well, it's a really startling document. It's a letter that kicks off with a pretty personal slight, a prize that wasn't given, and then, in the blink of an eye, it escalates into a demand for an entire country. It's this incredible journey from personal ego all the way to grand geopolitical strategy. And wow, does it reveal a lot about a certain way of seeing the world.
So, get this. It opens with, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, that is just not how diplomacy usually works. International relations are supposed to be built on things like treaties, shared interests, really complex negotiations. To lead with a personal grievance, this feeling of being snubbed, it means the entire argument is built on a foundation of personal ego. And that's the absolute key here. A perceived personal rejection is being used as the official reason, the trigger for a massive shift in foreign policy. It's just a stunningly direct line from "you didn't give me what I think I deserve" straight to a complete change in how a global power is going to operate on the world stage. And the immediate fallout from that grievance? It's spelled out right here. Quote, "I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace." I mean, the logic is just laid bare. If my achievements aren't recognized with the top prize, well then the whole idea of peace itself is no longer my main priority. From that point, the argument just pivots to questioning the very idea of sovereignty. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China, and why do they have a right of ownership anyway? That single question tries to just sweep aside centuries of international law, treaties, the whole concept of a nation's sovereignty, as if they're just annoying little details getting in the way. And here's the legal and historical justification that's offered for this challenge. It's all based on the idea that ownership is decided because, quote, "a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had boats landing there also." As a reason for an international land claim, it's just staggering. You see, this isn't just a strange argument. It's what you'd call a post-truth approach to history and law. This tactic, where you replace established facts with a much simpler, self-serving story, it's a classic tool of historical revisionism. It's been used by authoritarian regimes for ages to justify land grabs and expansion. This same logic, this whole rewriting the rules thing, then gets applied to military alliances. The letter says, "I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States." The relationship is framed not as a partnership, but as a debt that needs to be paid. And right here, you can see this fundamental clash of worldviews. On one side, you have the traditional idea of an alliance like NATO, built on mutual defense, on solidarity. But this letter reframes that entire thing into a simple transaction, a quid pro quo, where helping each other isn't a shared principle, it's a debt that has to be collected. The real danger here is that this way of thinking is just so strategically destabilizing. It eats away at the very foundation of trust that alliances are built on. When you start treating your allies not like partners, but like accounts you need to extract value from, the whole logic of collective security just starts to fall apart. So when you see treaties dismissed, allies viewed as transactions, and the whole thing kicking off from a personal grievance, you've got to ask yourself, is this just an undiplomatic style, or does it point to something much more fundamental about the mindset behind it all? To really understand this worldview, some analysts turn to psychology. One concept they bring up is malignant narcissism. It's a term for a pretty dangerous cocktail of narcissism, antisocial behavior, paranoia, and aggression. It's one lens that might help make sense of such a personalized way of looking at global strategy. And tied directly to that is the idea of pathological entitlement, which is this deeply, deeply held belief that the world simply owes you things, whether it's a Nobel Prize or, as we're seeing here, an entire country. And all of this just feeds into this view of the world as a zero-sum game. In this mindset, any win for another country, even if it's an ally, is a direct loss for you. Alliances aren't about becoming stronger together, they're debts that have to be paid back. Because if someone else is benefiting, you must be losing. So after all the personal slights and the transactional logic, we finally get to the end game. The letter's absolutely stunning conclusion. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. This isn't a negotiation, it's an absolute demand, and it's presented as the one and only path to global security. Ultimately, what this document shows with such chilling clarity is the immense danger of letting unfiltered personal grievance and ego write your grand strategy. Because when that happens, the very foundations of diplomacy, of law, of alliances, they all become fragile, and the world itself is just not secure.